When we talk about power or influence, there's this expectation of physical force.
Right, yeah, like a battlefield.
Exactly. Like you have a larger army or you have bigger weapons, and the general just points at the hill and says, like, take it.
The metrics are totally binary in that case. It's visible. You can, literally count the troops and the artillery.
Stronger or weaker? It's clean.
It is. And it's comforting in a weird way. I mean, we like things to be visible and quantifiable because it makes the world feel predictable.
Right.
We just understand brute force
Yeah.
instinctively.
But then, you step into the world of human dynamics or office politics or just social maneuvering.
Oh, completely different game.
Yeah, and suddenly that battlefield metaphor is completely broken. We're looking at this invisible landscape of power.
That's a great way to put it.
I mean, think about your own office or a boardroom or even a tight-knit social circle. The person with the real power usually isn't the loudest one in the room barking orders, right?
Totally. It's almost never that person.
It's the one quietly pulling the psychological strings behind closed doors. It is a completely psychological hall of mirrors.
That is the perfect way to describe it. And that invisible landscape is precisely what we are navigating today in this deep dive.
Yeah, we really are.
We are opening up the source material for what is widely considered the ultimate and undeniably most ruthless playbook of human dynamics, strategy, and self-preservation.
Which is the 48 Laws of Power.
Exactly.
So our mission today is to really decode this text for you. Now, reading through these laws, it can feel like you are peering directly into the mind of a Machiavellian mastermind.
Oh, it gets incredibly dark.
It gets so dark and cynical. But our goal here isn't to endorse every ruthless tactic or, tell you to go out and become a supervillain.
Please don't do that.
Right, please no. Our goal is to arm you with an understanding of how power dynamics actually work in the real world, whether we like them or not.
Because ignoring the architecture of power doesn't make it magically go away.
No, it just makes you a pawn.
Exactly. The core tension established right away in this text is that supreme power is rarely about that physical brute force we talked about.
Right.
According to these laws, true power is about perception, it's about psychology, and above all else, it is about supreme self-control.
So it's not about overpowering someone physically.
No, it's about outmaneuvering them mentally so that they just yield before a fight even begins.
Okay, let's really unpack this because 48 Laws is, well, it's a massive amount of ground to cover.
It is. It's dense.
Yeah, and if we just read them one by one, it would feel like reciting a dictionary.
Which nobody wants to listen to.
Right. So instead of going sequentially, we are going to dissect this text through 4 core pillars.
I like this approach.
So first, crafting the image. Second, navigating the chessboard of relationships. Third, psychological seduction. And finally, the 4th pillar, the art of the strike.
That structural approach really reveals the underlying logic of the text.
Yeah, so?
Well, it moves from the internal, like how you meticulously construct your own avatar outward, to how you deploy that avatar among others.
Okay, yeah.
And then how you manipulate the psychological undercurrents of those interactions. And finally, the mechanics of executing a definitive master plan.
So let's begin with the foundation, section 1. The power of perception or, crafting the unassailable image.
The most crucial step.
Yeah, because before you can even think about wielding power over anyone else, you have to control how others perceive you.
Absolutely.
The text sets up this incredibly fascinating paradox where you have to be simultaneously highly visible but completely mysterious.
It's a really tough balance to strike, and it starts with Law 5.
Which says,
So much depends on reputation. Guard it with your life. The text literally calls reputation the cornerstone of power.
guard it with your life. That's intense.
It is. The argument here is that through reputation alone, you can intimidate and win.
Right. Like, if you have a reputation for being brilliantly ruthless, people will concede negotiations before you even sit down at the table.
Exactly. Or, on the flip side, if you have a reputation for absolute integrity, people will lower their defenses.
But the moment it slips, you are vulnerable on all sides.
You are. You have to make your reputation unassailable. And conversely, it advises learning to open holes in your enemy's reputation.
Oh, man, this part was brutal.
It is a brutal line. It says, open holes in their reputation and stand aside and let public opinion hang them.
So brutal, but, I mean, you see the mechanics of that happen on social media and in corporate PR every single day.
Oh, constantly.
You don't physically attack a rival. You just, plant a seed of doubt about their competence, and the crowd does the rest.
Precisely. And then right next to it, creating this paradox you mentioned earlier, is Law 6,
Right.
which is court attention at all cost.
Yeah, that one threw me a bit.
Well, the text says that what is unseen counts for nothing. You can't let yourself get lost in the crowd.
Okay.
You have to be conspicuous, making yourself a magnet of attention by appearing larger, more colorful, and more mysterious than the, and I quote, bland and timid masses.
Okay, I have to push back here because
Right.
this is where a lot of people misinterpret this book, I think.
Let's hear it.
How do you court attention at all costs without ruining that carefully crafted, serious reputation from Law 5?
It's a valid question.
Doesn't making yourself a spectacle run the risk of making you look completely foolish? Like, if I show up to a board meeting in a neon pink suit playing a trumpet,
That would definitely get attention.
I'm certainly getting attention, right? But my reputation as a competent professional is instantly gone.
Right, right. That is the crucial gray area. Courting attention at all costs doesn't mean being a clown.
Okay.
It doesn't mean utilizing cheap gimmicks that erode your baseline of respect. The key words in Law 6 are appearing larger and more mysterious.
How mysterious.
It's about calculated visibility.
Mhm.
The text wants you to cultivate the kind of attention that makes people wonder about you, that elevates you above the mundane.
Oh,
You don't want the attention of a jester dropping plates in the middle of the room. You want the attention of, like, a quiet storm brewing on the horizon.
That's a great image.
People can't look away, not because you're loud, but because you were magnetically unpredictable.
Ah, I see. It's the difference between notoriety and mystique.
Exactly.
Notoriety is cheap, mystique is expensive. And that actually explains the mechanics of the next cluster of laws, which are Law 3, Law 4, and Law 16.
The withholding laws.
Yeah, because these laws introduce the absolute power of withholding. Law 3 says, conceal your intentions.
Keep people off balance and in the dark.
Right, guide them down the wrong path in a cloud of smoke. If they don't know what you want, they can't build a defense against you.
And Law 4 compounds that perfectly. It says, always say less than necessary.
Always say less.
It argues that speaking actually makes you seem common. The more you say, the less in control you look.
So true.
The text advises making your words vague, open-ended, and sphinx-like to intimidate people.
Sphinx-like! I love that!
And then Law 16 pushes this into your physical presence. Use absence to increase respect and honor. It flatly states, too much circulation makes the price go down.
The psychological mechanism driving this is just fascinating to me. Human brains are essentially prediction machines, and we just cannot stand a vacuum.
We hate it. We have to fill it.
Exactly. When you say less than necessary, when you deliberately pause in a negotiation, or when you are, absent from the daily office gossip, you create a void.
A massive void.
And other people will frantically rush to fill that void with their own imaginations, their own insecurities, and their own projections of your power.
They do the work for you.
By doing nothing, you are forcing them to do all the mental work. You see this in salary negotiations all the time.
Oh, the silent treatment.
Yes, the person who states a number and then just completely shuts up almost always wins.
Because the silence becomes physically uncomfortable for the other party.
Right, and they start bidding against themselves just to fill the quiet.
That is a phenomenal modern translation. The void is genuinely terrifying to the uninitiated.
I thought of an analogy for Law 16 while reading this. It's exactly like the diamond market.
Okay, let's hear it.
If you think about the raw materials, diamonds are essentially just shiny rocks.
Basically, yeah.
But they hold immense value because they are kept artificially scarce. The diamond syndicates don't flood the market. They hold them back in vaults.
Right, they control the supply.
Exactly. If you are a person who talks all the time, constantly over-explaining yourself, always available, always in the break room chatting.
They're everywhere.
Yeah, your cubic zirconia, you're everywhere, so your perceived value drops to zero. But if you hold back, if you manufacture scarcity, you become a diamond.
Creating value through artificial scarcity. I love that analogy. But, the text doesn't just leave you sitting alone in a vault being scarce.
Right. You have to come out eventually.
Exactly. When you do appear, when you finally step onto the stage, you have to execute a very specific kind of performance.
Which brings us to Law 34, Law 30, and Law 46.
Yes. This is about creating the illusion of effortless royalty.
Law 34 says, be royal in your own fashion. Act like a king to be treated like one.
It argues that appearing vulgar or common makes people disrespect you.
And then Law 30 insists you have to make your accomplishments seem effortless.
This is huge.
You have to conceal all the toil, all the late nights, the stress, the endless revisions, and the clever tricks.
You have to make it look like everything you achieve is just a natural byproduct of your innate genius.
If we look at the mechanics of effortless execution, it's really about hiding the friction, isn't it?
Completely.
It's like the suspension system on a high-end luxury car. Inside the cabin, you don't feel a single bump.
Right, you're just drinking coffee and listening to classical music.
Gliding down the highway. But underneath the chassis, completely out of sight, the shocks and struts are violently compressing. They're taking an absolute beating to absorb the impact of the road.
That's exactly it.
Law 30 is telling you, never let them see the suspension working.
Because the moment people see how hard you are sweating, you become mortal.
You become just like them, just another person struggling to get by.
But if you achieve massive things without breaking a sweat, you appear almost supernatural.
The danger, of course, is that appearing supernatural triggers a very specific, very dangerous human emotion.
Ah, yes. Envy.
Right. Just when the text builds you up into this flawless, silent, godlike king, it hits you with Law 46. Never appear too perfect.
It says appearing better than others is dangerous, but appearing to have no faults is the most dangerous thing of all.
Because it breeds envy.
Exactly. The text advises you to occasionally display a defect or a harmless vice to deflect that envy.
There is a deeply chilling line in the explanation for Law 46. It says, "Only gods and the dead can seem perfect with impunity."
That is intense.
That gave me goosebumps reading it.
It should, because envy is the silent killer in power dynamics. It's an emotion people rarely admit to, which makes it incredibly difficult to track.
Right, no one says, "I'm trying to ruin you because I'm jealous."
Never. If you are entirely flawless, people don't just admire you. They secretly hate you because your perfection highlights their own inadequacy.
So revealing a calculated flaw is the move.
Yes. A minor clumsiness, a harmless addiction to bad coffee, a relatable fear of public speaking. It's the ultimate defensive maneuver.
Because it humanizes you.
It humanizes you just enough to defang the envy, while keeping your core reputation completely intact.
Yeah.
You are giving the envious a tiny bone to chew on so they don't try to tear your throat out.
Okay, so you've built this flawless, unassailable image. You are a sphinx. Your accomplishments are effortless, yet you have just enough relatable flaws to keep people from poisoning your drink out of spite.
That's the ideal state, yes.
But the moment you step out of your office, that carefully crafted image collides with a deeply insecure boss and envious peers.
Reality hits.
Your internal image now has to survive external reality, which forces us to look at how we weaponize our relationships.
It transitions us right into section 2. The chessboard of relationships, masters, friends, and scapegoats.
Moving from the internal to the external.
Exactly. The text starts viewing human relationships purely as strategic assets or liabilities. It is extremely unsentimental.
Ice cold. Let's look at how it categorizes the people around you, starting with superiors. Law 1, right out of the gate, is never outshine the master.
A classic.
The text warns that if you go too far in displaying your talents to please your boss, you will accomplish the exact opposite.
You will inspire fear and insecurity.
And they will crush you.
The historical example the text relies on heavily here is Nicolas Fouquet, the finance minister for King Louis XIV of France.
Oh, this story is wild.
It really is. Fouquet threw the most lavish, brilliant party in history to honor the king, thinking it would solidify his position as an indispensable, brilliant servant.
But it backfired completely.
Terribly. The king felt upstaged. He felt his own grandeur was threatened by his minister's brilliance. Within days, Fouquet was arrested and spent the rest of his life in solitary confinement.
Just for throwing a good party, it's the spotlight operator analogy.
How do you mean?
If you are the spotlight operator at a theater, your entire job is to shine the light on the star of the show and make them look brilliant. If you suddenly decide to turn the spotlight around and shine it on yourself in the booth to show the audience how good you are at operating the light,
You're getting fired.
you're getting fired immediately. The master's ego is the most fragile thing in the room.
Exactly. And speaking of fragile things, we move to Law 2, which flips conventional wisdom completely on its head.
Never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies.
The text claims that friends will betray you more quickly because they are easily aroused to envy.
They feel entitled to your success.
Yes, but if you hire a former enemy, they have more to prove. They will be vastly more loyal. And if you have no enemies, the text literally says, find a way to make them.
I have to pause on this one and explore the gray area because this is wildly counterintuitive.
It goes against everything we're taught.
It really does. Why on earth would I want to hire someone who previously tried to destroy me? Aren't I just giving them a desk, a company email, and an inside track to plot a long-term coup?
It's a very real risk, and the text actually acknowledges that friction. You don't just hire them blindly and hand them the keys to the kingdom.
Uh-oh.
You put them in a position where their survival is completely tethered to yours.
Oh,
Friends often feel they deserve what you have. The dynamic is muddy, but an enemy expects nothing from you.
right. They expect you to hate them.
Exactly. When you offer them an olive branch, a position of power, you trigger a massive psychological shift. You neutralize a threat, yes,
Hmm.
but you also gain a hyper-loyal asset because their continued success now depends entirely on your grace.
Because they know they're on thin ice.
They know it, so they work twice as hard to prove their worth. It's a containment strategy masquerading as forgiveness.
Wow. Okay, so friends are liabilities, enemies are assets.
Broadly speaking, yes.
And then we have Law 10, which addresses peers. Infection. Avoid the unhappy and unlucky.
This one is harsh.
It states that emotional states are as infectious as diseases. If you associate with miserable people, you will draw misfortune onto yourself.
It views chronic unhappiness not as something to be cured with your compassion, but as a contagion to be quarantined.
Quarantine.
The chronically unlucky are often architects of their own demise, and if you get too close, they will pull you under with them.
So we know how to manage the fragile boss, the envious friends, and the contagious peers.
Right.
Now, the text gets remarkably calculating about how to actually use the people around you to insulate your own power. Let's break down the mechanics of Law 7, Law 11, and Law 26.
These three laws are the holy trinity of corporate survival.
Oh, definitely.
Law 7 says, get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit.
Classic.
It argues that using others' legwork saves you time and gives you this is a great quote, godlike aura of efficiency.
Which goes right back to Law 30, making things seem effortless.
You could-
It's effortless for you because 5 other people stayed up until 3 a.m. doing the spreadsheets.
Right. Then Law 11 kicks in. Learn to keep people dependent on you. Never teach them enough so that they can do without you.
Keep them in the dark just enough.
And Law 26 provides the ultimate insurance policy. Keep your hands clean. You must seem a paragon of civility, and you do this by using others as scapegoats and what the text calls cat's paws to disguise your nasty deeds.
Let's pull the thread on the mechanism of Law 11 for a second. How do you actually keep people dependent on you without them realizing they are trapped?
It's all about information control.
Right. You hoard a specific type of institutional knowledge. You become the only person who knows how the legacy code works.
Or the only one with the direct cell number of the key supplier.
Or the only one who can placate the volatile CEO. You engineer a bottleneck where all critical paths must cross your desk. You become the linchpin.
If we extrapolate how these three laws work in tandem, you create the architecture of an untouchable leader.
Untouchable.
Imagine a central node in a network. By applying Law 7, all the raw data, the labor, the sweat flows into you, and you output the finished product, taking the glory.
Okay.
By applying Law 11, you ensure that the people doing that labor only know their specific part of the assembly line. They don't have the blueprint.
They just have their one task.
Right. They need you to synthesize it
Yeah.
so they can never leave and become your competitor.
And then Law 26 is the emergency ripcord.
Exactly.
If a project fails or a PR disaster hits, your hands are completely clean. Because you delegated the action to someone else, you find a scapegoat to take the fall.
You remain the spotless visionary.
And they become the unfortunate casualty of execution. You see this in corporate structures all the time.
All the time.
The CEO announces the record profits, but when the massive accounting scandal hits, it's some mid-level manager who gets fired for, quote-unquote, rogue behavior. It's Law 26 in action.
But what happens when the maneuvering fails and you actually face direct conflict? This brings us to Law 13 and Law 15. The text assumes conflict is inevitable. Law 13 dictates how you ask for help. Appeal to people's self-interest, never to their mercy or gratitude. If you need an ally, do not remind them that you saved their career 5 years ago.
Why not? I mean, shouldn't gratitude count for something?
Because gratitude is a burden. It makes people feel indebted, and humans subconsciously resent feeling indebted.
Wow.
It reminds them of a time they were weak and needed you. But self-interest, that is a perpetual motion machine.
They always want more for themselves.
People will always move toward their own gain. You uncover something in your request that benefits them, and you emphasize it out of all proportion.
And if they refuse to help, or worse, they become an active threat, we arrive at Law 15. I have to admit, this one is genuinely intimidating.
It's arguably the darkest law.
Crush your enemy, totally. The text says that all great leaders since Moses have known that a feared enemy must be crushed not only in body, but in spirit. If one ember is left alight, no matter how dimly it smolders, a fire will eventually break out.
It is an absolute scorched earth policy. The text points out that if you wound an enemy but leave them alive socially, professionally, or financially, you have given them the ultimate motivation.
Revenge.
Revenge. They have nothing left to lose, and they will spend the rest of their lives plotting your downfall.
I have to challenge the optics of this. If you completely crush someone, don't you risk creating a martyr? Or alienating your own allies who might look at you and think, wow, this person is a psychopath. I need to stay far away.
That's a highly strategic concern. The text frames this through a lens of historical survival, arguing that stopping halfway is where the true danger lies.
Because they'll come back for you.
Exactly. But regarding the optics, you don't necessarily have to make a public spectacle of the crushing. Refer back to Law 26, keeping your hands clean. You dismantle their network, you sever their resources, you ensure they are permanently neutralized, but you do it quietly or through proxies.
So it's not a public execution.
No, the neutralization must be absolute, but it can be invisible. The ember must be extinguished, or it will burn your house down while you sleep.
Taking pieces off the board is one thing, but the highest level of control isn't moving people around, it's getting them to want to move.
Which is a huge shift.
And that brings us to Section 3, psychological seduction and subversion. We are moving from external maneuvering to hacking the human operating system.
Yes, moving from coercion to seduction. Law 43 introduces this beautifully. Work on the hearts and minds of others.
Right.
The text warns that coercion creates a reaction that will eventually work against you. If you force someone to comply, they will harbor resentment.
They'll just wait for their chance to turn on you.
Exactly. You must seduce others. You play on their individual psychologies, what they hold dear, and what they fear.
And it pairs this with Law 32. Play to people's fantasies. The underlying logic here is dark but undeniable. The truth is often ugly and unpleasant.
People don't want the truth.
Life is harsh, mundane, and full of friction. So if you can conjure up romance or fantasy or a vision of effortless wealth, you become an oasis in the desert and everyone will flock to you.
They want to be deceived if the deception feels good.
Exactly. And this scales up terrifyingly in Law 27. Play on people's need to believe to create a cult-like following.
A very dangerous tool.
It instructs you to keep your words vague, but full of massive promise, emphasize enthusiasm over rationality, give them rituals, and most importantly, ask for sacrifices.
What did you think of when you read that one?
Looking at Law 27, creating a cult-like following, it instantly made me think of modern tech bro startup culture or like intense wellness brands.
Oh, absolutely.
You aren't just selling software or green juice, you're selling a utopian vision. People are so desperate for that oasis in the desert of reality that they will throw rationality out the window if you just promise them a new, shiny belief system.
They buy into the lifestyle.
You offer them a vision of disrupting the world, you give them the ritual of the 6 a.m. hustle and the mandatory cold plunges, and you ask for the sacrifice of their weekends and personal lives.
And boom, you have a pawn who thinks they are a pioneer.
They are practically thanking you for exploiting them.
That maps perfectly onto the historical mechanics of charlatans and demagogues. It leverages the inherent human desire for meaning and belonging.
But what if you are dealing with an individual who is highly guarded? Someone who sees through the startup fantasy or the grand promises.
This is where the text gets surgical with Law 12, Law 14, and Law 21. Disarming the victim.
Let's look at the mechanism of disarming. Law 12 is, use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim.
It says one sincere and honest move will cover over dozens of dishonest ones.
It acts as a Trojan horse to bring down their guard.
Right.
It's like when a negotiator admits a small, seemingly detrimental flaw in their product right up front. You immediately think, wow, this person is incredibly transparent. They are really shooting straight with me.
They seem trustworthy.
And because of that one small truth, you swallow the massive lie they sell you 5 minutes later.
You've bypassed their psychological firewall entirely. And once their guard is down, you apply Law 14. Pose as a friend, work as a spy.
Ah, gathering intel.
Yes. In polite social encounters, you ask indirect questions to get people to reveal their weaknesses and their plans. But the most brilliant tactic for bypassing defenses is Law 21. Play a sucker to catch a sucker. Seem dumber than your mark. Make your victims feel not just smart, but smarter than you are.
Why does playing dumb work so well?
Because ego is the ultimate blind spot for human beings. When we feel intellectually superior to someone, our critical thinking faculties shut down. We relax.
We don't see them as a threat.
Right. We assume they aren't capable of outmaneuvering us because we've already categorized them as harmless. If you concede the intellectual high ground, the other person drops their guard entirely.
They become chatty.
They boast, they reveal their plans, which plays perfectly into Law 14, gathering information as a spy.
You stroke their ego until they talk themselves right into a trap. And once you are inside their defenses, you apply Law 33. Discover each man's thumbscrew.
Everyone has one.
The text posits that everyone, no matter how powerful, has a weakness, a gap in the castle wall. It could be a deep-seated insecurity, an uncontrollable emotion, or a secret pleasure. Once you find it, it's a thumbscrew you can turn to your advantage.
And the ultimate way to turn that thumbscrew, to completely break their psychological balance, is Law 44. Disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect.
I loved this law. The text says doing exactly what your enemies do mocks and humiliates them. It makes them overreact.
You hold up a mirror to their psyches to seduce them, or a mirror to their actions to teach them a lesson.
I kept comparing Law 44 to a martial arts technique like Aikido.
Oh, that's a good comparison.
You are striking them with your own physical force. You are taking their exact momentum, their exact weight, and using it against them. If they yell, you mirror their intensity.
If they are passive-aggressive, you reflect it back perfectly.
It drives them completely crazy because they are essentially fighting themselves. They can't figure out your strategy because your strategy is them.
It's deeply disorienting to have your own behavior mirrored back to you. It strips away your sense of control. You've hacked their psychology. You know their weaknesses. You've fed their fantasies, you've stroked their ego, and you've mirrored their attacks. They are completely subdued without a single punch being thrown.
You have the image, you have the network, and you have the psychological map. Now we enter the endgame. Section 4. The master strategist action, timing, and the ultimate form.
This is where it all comes together.
We've covered the setup. Now, how and when does a master actually execute their move?
It begins with controlling the engagement. Law 8, Law 9, and Law 31 dictate the rules of the board.
Law 8 tells us, make other people come to you, use bait if necessary.
When you force the other person to act, you are in control. They are expending energy while you wait.
And Law 9 is crucial. Win through your actions, never through argument.
The text argues that any triumph through argument is a Pyrrhic victory.
Because it just stirs up resentment. People may agree with you in the moment to shut you up, but their core belief hasn't changed. Demonstrate. Do not explicate.
Exactly. And then there is Law 31. Control the options. Get others to play with the cards you deal. This one is incredibly insidious.
Insidious is the right word.
It says, give people choices that come out in your favor no matter what. Put them on the horns of a dilemma. They are gored wherever they turn.
If we look at the mechanics of that maneuver, it relies entirely on the illusion of free will.
It really does. People are highly compliant when they think they have a choice.
Right. If you tell someone what to do, their natural psychological reactance kicks in. They want to rebel.
But if you present them with option A and option B, both of which secretly serve your ultimate goal, they will agonizingly weigh the pros and cons, make a decision, and feel ownership over it.
They are choosing between the lesser of two evils, completely unaware that you manufactured the entire menu.
They think they are in control.
A perfect everyday example of this is the decoy effect in pricing or negotiations.
Oh, I hate that one.
It's everywhere. If you want someone to buy the $100 subscription, you don't just offer it next to a $50 one. You offer a $50 basic, a $100 premium, and a $120 super premium that offers almost no extra value.
Suddenly, the $100 option looks like a rational, smart choice.
The buyer feels like they outsmarted the system by picking the middle tier, totally unaware that you placed the $120 option there specifically to push them to the $100 tier. You put them on the horns of a dilemma, and they gored themselves voluntarily.
The illusion of autonomy is such a powerful tool. So you control the options. But how do you focus your energy? This brings us to Law 23, Law 35, and Law 29. Focus, timing, and the endgame.
Law 23 says concentrate your forces. It says intensity defeats extensity every time. Find a rich mine and mine it deeper, rather than flitting from one shallow mine to another. Find the one key patron, the fat cow.
That phrasing is distinct. The fat cow.
It means stop spreading yourself thin trying to please 100 minor players in the office. Find the one true source of power, the real decision maker, and extract everything you need from them.
And do it with perfect timing. Law 35. Master the art of timing. Never seem to be in a hurry.
Hurrying betrays a lack of control over yourself and over time.
Sniff out the spirit of the times, stand back when the time isn't ripe, and strike fiercely when it is.
I think about how modern culture completely violates Law 35.
Oh, entirely.
Today's corporate culture rewards constant, frantic action. Move fast and break things. Hustle, pivot, react. Send emails at 2 a.m. to prove you're grinding.
But the text argues that this frantic energy is actually a sign of weakness.
The true power player has the supreme discipline to just wait, to let the frantic people burn themselves out, make mistakes, and reveal their positions. Standing still is sometimes the most aggressive move you can make.
The discipline of waiting is so rare now. And finally, Law 29. Plan all the way to the end. Take into account all possible consequences, obstacles, and twists of fortune.
Reversals of fortune are inevitable. If you haven't planned for the aftermath of your victory will destroy you.
Which perfectly sets up the climax of the strategy, Law 47 and Law 48, the paradox of victory and formlessness.
You've planned to the end, you've waited for the perfect moment, you've struck, you've won. What's next?
Law 47 warns, do not go past the mark you aimed for. In victory, learn when to stop. It says arrogance can push you past your goal and create more enemies than you defeat.
Alexander the Great is a classic historical example of violating this law, right?
He is. He conquered the known world, achieving unprecedented power, but he couldn't stop. He pushed his exhausted army further and further into India until it finally fractured and mutinied.
Victory is intoxicating.
And intoxication ruins judgment. The moment of victory is often the moment of greatest peril because you feel invincible.
And then the final law, Law 48. Assume formlessness. The text says that by taking a shape, by having a visible plan, you open yourself to attack. Accept the fact that nothing is certain and no law is fixed. The best way to protect yourself is to be as fluid and formless as water.
Everything changes.
Okay, I have a massive pushback here to end our discussion.
I had a feeling you might.
If we just spent this entire deep dive building a rigid, unassailable reputation under Law 5, creating highly visible spectacles under Law 6, and mastering all these specific structured rules,
Right.
How can the ultimate law be to suddenly be formless? It feels like the book just contradicted its entire premise at the finish line.
I love this question because this synthesizes our entire deep dive perfectly. Formlessness is not a contradiction. It is the ultimate graduation of the power player.
Explain that.
When you start, you need a rigid reputation. You need specific tactics to survive the chessboard. But a reputation is a tool. A spectacle is a tool. If you become too attached to your own tools, if you start believing your own myth, you become rigid.
You start to identify with the mask.
Yes. The moment you rigidly identify with your own tactics, you become predictable. And as we learned earlier, predictability makes you a target.
Oh.
Formlessness means your core remains entirely unattached and adaptable. You use the previous 47 laws, like clothes, putting them on when the weather requires them, and discarding them when the season changes. You are fluid as water.
Because water can take the shape of the teapot, or it can crash and destroy the teapot.
Exactly. Everything changes, and the master of power changes with it.
Unbelievable. Okay, let's take a breath and summarize this incredible journey. We started with building a mythic, unassailable reputation, learning the power of the void, and displaying calculated flaws to defang envy.
We covered a lot of ground.
We really did. We moved onto the chessboard, ruthlessly pruning relationships, avoiding the unlucky, and ensuring we remain the indispensable, clean-handed center of the network.
We learned how to hack human psychology by playing to fantasies.
Conceding the intellectual high ground to drop defenses, and using the mirror effect to drive opponents crazy. And finally, we looked at the master strategist, who controls the options, waits patiently while others panic, and ultimately achieves a state of fluid, adaptable formlessness.
It is a dark, brilliant, and undeniably effective look at human nature.
It really is. So, to you, the listener, here is your call to action today. Look around you. Reflect on your own interactions this week. Where do you see these laws playing out?
Who in your office is using Law 26 to keep their hands clean?
What news anchor or politician is using Law 27 to play on the need to believe? And maybe most uncomfortably, which of these laws are you using without even realizing it?
And as you mull that over, I want to leave you with one final provocative puzzle rooted directly in the text we just explored.
Let's hear it.
If Law 48 states that nothing is certain and no law is fixed, and that everything changes, does that mean even these 48 laws of power are destined to become obsolete?
Oh, wow.
If the ultimate power is formlessness, perhaps the truest master of power eventually throws away the rulebook entirely.
A completely formless master. Now that is something to think about. Thank you so much for joining us on this intense, fascinating deep dive into the architecture of power. We will catch you next time. Keep your eyes open and stay curious.